The moment Dr. Sarah Chen touched the crystalline interface of the ARCSID quantum computer, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. The alien delegation had expected nothing when they allowed the human scientists to examine their technology. After all, humanity was centuries behind their level of advancement. But as her fingers made contact with the smooth opalescent surface, the quantum matrices that powered their entire ship began to sing. The ARCSID High Observer, Kolan, felt his crystalline appendages vibrate with an impossible reading. The human wasn't just interfacing with the computer. She was resonating with it on a quantum level. In 3,000 years of exploring the galaxy, the ARCSID had never encountered anything like this. Dr. Chen. Kolan's translator hummed, careful to maintain a neutral tone despite his growing excitement. Are you aware of what you're doing? Sarah blinked, her hand still resting on the interface. The holographic displays around them pulsed with patterns that shouldn't have been possible without years of training and neural augmentation. I'm just listening, she said, her voice distant. Your computer, it's like a symphony of possibilities. The other ARCSID scientists in the chamber began recording everything, their crystalline forms refracting light in patterns that indicated intense scientific curiosity. They had come to Earth expecting to find another primitive species struggling with basic quantum mechanics. Instead, they had stumbled upon something that challenged their fundamental understanding of consciousness itself. Impossible, muttered second observer Valtex, their form shifting from transparent to cloudy with confusion. The quantum interference pattern suggests she's perceiving multiple quantum states simultaneously, without any technological assistance. Sarah finally withdrew her hand, looking somewhat dazed. The quantum displays settled back into their normal configurations, but the impact of what had just happened hung in the air, like static before a storm. I'm sorry, she said, straightening her lab coat. Did I do something wrong? Kolan moved closer, his crystalline form catching the light in a way that humans had learned meant intense focus. Dr. Chen, what you just did should not be possible. Our species spent 1,000 years developing the technology to interact with quantum systems at this level. Yet you just reached out and touched the quantum fabric of reality as easily as breathing. The implications began to dawn on Sarah. As the lead researcher for Earth's quantum computing initiative, she had always had an intuitive grasp of quantum mechanics that her colleagues found remarkable. But this was something else entirely. I've always been able to sort of feel the way quantum systems want to flow, she explained, struggling to put the sensation into words. I thought everyone could with enough practice. The ARCSID delegation exchanged rapid pulses of light, their equivalent of urgent whispers. The ship's sensors were now focused entirely on Sarah, recording every quantum fluctuation around her. What they found sent ripples of astonishment through their crystalline forms. It's not just you, Kolan finally said. We're detecting similar quantum resonance patterns from multiple human population centers. Different strengths, different frequencies, but the same fundamental ability. Your entire species appears to possess some degree of quantum empathic resonance. Sarah sat down heavily in one of the conforming chairs the ARCSID had provided for their human guests. Our entire species. But that's... She trailed off, her scientific mind already racing ahead to the implications. Revolutionary, Kolan finished for her, and potentially dangerous. The ability to naturally interface with quantum systems could explain several anomalies we've observed in human technological development. Your quantum computers achieving results they shouldn't be capable of. Experimental quantum entanglement networks showing unprecedented stability near human operators. We need to understand the full extent of this ability, Valtex interjected, their form now pulsing with patterns that indicated both excitement and concern. Dr. Chen, would you be willing to undergo some tests? With proper safety protocols, of course. Sarah looked around the chamber, at the advanced technology that surrounded them, and felt something she hadn't experienced since she was a child first discovering quantum physics. Pure wonder. On one condition, she said, straightening up. Whatever we discover, it has to be shared with both our species. This isn't just about scientific discovery anymore. This could change everything we think we know about human consciousness. Colan's form shifted to indicate agreement, but Sarah noticed a subtle pattern rippling through his crystalline structure that she somehow knew meant concern. The Arxid were hiding something, some greater reason for their interest in this discovery. As the alien scientists began preparing their instruments for initial tests, Sarah closed her eyes and let herself feel the quantum fields flowing around her. There was something there, just at the edge of perception, like a word on the tip of her tongue. Humanity had stumbled upon something profound, and she had a feeling they were only scratching the surface of what it meant. In the days that followed, research teams from both species would work tirelessly to understand the implications of this discovery. But even as they gathered data and ran experiments, none of them fully grasped how this revelation would reshape the relationship between humans and Arxid, or how it would ultimately save both their civilizations from a threat neither of them saw coming. The quantum computer hummed softly in the background, its crystalline matrices still resonating with echoes of Sarah's touch. And somewhere, in the quantum fabric of reality itself, something ancient and vast began to stir, as if humanity's awakening quantum consciousness had rung a bell that had waited eons to be struck. The testing chamber aboard the Arxid vessel gleamed with an otherworldly light, its walls shifting between states of matter like liquid crystal. Dr. Sarah Chen watched as Maria Patel, a quantum physicist from Mumbai, approached the central testing interface. She was the 20th volunteer this week, and each subject had revealed something new about humanity's strange ability. "Remember," Sarah called out, "don't force it. Just let your mind drift and feel the quantum fields around you." Colan stood beside her, his crystalline form refracting data streams that only the Arxid could naturally perceive. "The variation in human quantum sensitivity is remarkable," he observed. "Each subject interfaces with the quantum field in subtly different ways." Maria placed her hands on the interface, and immediately the chamber's instruments came alive with activity. The quantum matrices surrounding her began to shift and pulse in patterns that the Arxid had never seen before. But unlike the previous subjects, Maria didn't just observe the quantum states, she began to influence them. "This is unprecedented," Valtex announced, their form flickering with excitement. "She's naturally stabilizing quantum fluctuations that our most advanced systems struggle to control." Sarah leaned forward, studying the readings. Over the past week, they had discovered that humans didn't just passively interact with quantum fields, they could actively influence them. More importantly, this ability seemed to grow stronger under pressure, as if responding to necessity. "Maria," Sarah called out, "we're going to introduce some quantum instability. Don't try to fight it, just respond naturally." The chamber's systems generated a controlled quantum disruption, the kind that would typically require massive computational power to manage. Maria's response was immediate and instinctive. The quantum fields around her shifted, not through technological intervention, but through some deeper connection that defied conventional physics. "It's like, I can feel the right way to shape it," Maria explained, her voice filled with wonder. "Like knowing how to balance on a bicycle without thinking about it." Colan's form pulsed with patterns that Sarah had learned to recognize as deep concern. She had noticed these pulses becoming more frequent as their research progressed, especially when humans demonstrated particularly strong quantum manipulation abilities. "Colan," she said quietly, while Maria continued her test, "there's something you're not telling us about why this ability matters so much to the Arxid, isn't there?" The alien scientist's form stilled for a moment, a sign of internal conflict. Finally, he responded, "Come with me, Dr. Chen. There's something you need to see." They left Valtex supervising the tests and made their way to the ship's astronomical observatory. The chamber opened up into a vast space filled with real-time projections of nearby star systems. Colan interfaced with the central console, and the display shifted to focus on a particular star cluster several light years from Earth. "We detected it 50 of your years ago," he explained, his translator struggling to convey the gravity in his tone. A quantum-level instability that defies all known physics. It's spreading through space, destabilizing the quantum fabric of reality itself. The display showed what looked like a web of cracks in space-time, spreading slowly but inexorably through the star cluster. Sarah felt her breath catch as she realized the implications. This is why you've been so interested in our ability to stabilize quantum fields. Yes, Colan admitted. The ARCSID have been trying to contain this anomaly for decades. Our most advanced technology barely slows its progress. But your species, his form shifted to indicate both hope and uncertainty. Your natural ability to influence quantum fields might be the key we've been searching for. Sarah watched the simulation of the spreading quantum instability, her mind racing with possibilities. How long? She asked. At its current rate of expansion, it will reach Earth's solar system within 5 years. If it's not contained by then, the quantum destabilization will make this entire region of space uninhabitable for both our species. The weight of this revelation settled over Sarah like a physical force. The ARCSID hadn't come to Earth just to study humanity's unique ability. They had come seeking salvation. And now, watching Maria effortlessly manipulate quantum fields in the testing chamber beyond, Sarah began to understand why. We've been running the wrong kinds of tests, she said finally. If we're going to face something of this magnitude, we need to understand not just how humans interface with quantum fields, but why we developed this ability in the first place. There has to be a reason our evolution took this particular path. Colan's form rippled with agreement. What do you propose? We need to push harder, test the limits of this ability. And more importantly, Sarah turned to face the alien scientist. We need to be completely honest with our volunteers about what's at stake. Humans have a history of exceeding their perceived limitations when faced with genuine existential threats. As if to emphasize her point, an alert sounded from the testing chamber. They rushed back to find Maria had just achieved quantum field stability levels that exceeded anything they had recorded so far. She stood at the interface, eyes closed in concentration, while the quantum matrices around her danced in perfect harmony. How did she? Valtex began, but Sarah cut them off. Maria's background isn't just in physics, she explained, watching her colleague work. She spent years studying meditation techniques that focus on connecting with the fundamental nature of reality. We've been thinking about this purely in terms of physics, but what if this ability is about something more fundamental? What if humans evolved to perceive quantum fields because we needed to understand something essential about the nature of consciousness itself? The implications of this theory sent ripples of excitement and concern through the ARCSID scientists. If human consciousness had naturally evolved to interface with quantum fields, it suggested possibilities that went far beyond their current understanding of physics or biology. As Sarah watched Maria continue to achieve unprecedented levels of quantum manipulation, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of discovering something that would change both their species forever. The question was whether they would unlock the full potential of this ability in time to stop the approaching quantum catastrophe. The holographic display in the ARCSID ship's main observatory painted the room in an eerie red glow. Sarah Chen stood with Colan and an emergency committee of both human and ARCSID scientists, watching as the quantum instability in the Proxima Centauri system grew exponentially worse. The containment fields aren't holding, Valtex announced, their crystalline form clouded with distress. The anomaly's expansion rate has increased by 300% in the last 24 hours. Sarah studied the real-time quantum readings, her mind automatically processing the patterns in ways that still amaze their ARCSID allies. It's not just expanding, she said, pointing to a particular set of fluctuations. It's evolving, adapting to our containment attempts. The past month had been a blur of increasingly desperate attempts to slow the anomaly's growth. The ARCSID had deployed their most advanced quantum stabilization technology, but nothing seemed to work for long. The only consistent factor was that the presence of human observers seemed to temporarily calm the quantum fluctuations. Watch this, Sarah said, Interfacing with the quantum computer. She pulled up recordings from their latest containment attempt. See how the quantum fields respond when our human teams are present. It's almost like they recognize you. Kolan finished, his form shimmering with revelation. Dr. Chen, could it be that this anomaly isn't just a natural phenomenon? Before she could respond, Maria Patel burst into the observatory, her usually calm demeanor shaken. You need to see this, she said, quickly connecting her tablet to the main display. I've been analyzing the quantum signature of the anomaly against historical data from Earth's quantum astronomy programs. The display shifted to show two wave patterns, one from the current crisis, another from what appeared to be background quantum noise recorded near Earth. The patterns were nearly identical. That's impossible, Valtex said, moving closer to the display. These readings from Earth, when were they taken? 3 million years ago, Maria replied quietly. They appear in regular intervals in our geological record, like quantum echoes. We just never had the technology to properly interpret them before. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as the implications became clear. We didn't evolve this ability by accident, she said slowly. Our species developed quantum empathic resonance because we've faced this before. Many times before. The observatory erupted in urgent discussions, ARCSID scientists communicating in rapid pulses of light, while their human counterparts spoke over each other in multiple languages. Kolan raised his upper appendages for silence. If what you're suggesting is true, he said, then humanity's quantum empathic ability isn't just a curious evolutionary development. It's an adaptive response to a cyclical cosmic threat. Sarah nodded, her mind racing ahead to the logical conclusion. Which means we're not just witnesses to this crisis. We're meant to be the solution to it. She turned to Maria. Remember how you described interfacing with the quantum fields? Like knowing how to balance on a bicycle. What if that intuitive understanding isn't just a random talent? What if it's a genetic memory, passed down through millions of years of evolution? The implications were staggering. Humanity had unknowingly carried the solution to this cosmic threat in their very DNA, waiting for the moment when they would develop the technology to understand their own innate abilities. We need to stop trying to contain the anomaly with technology, Sarah continued, growing more excited as the pieces fell into place. The ARCSID approach isn't working because it's treating this like a purely physical phenomenon. But what we're seeing, it's more like a dialogue. A dialogue. Valtex's form flickered with confusion. With what? With the quantum fabric of space-time itself, Sarah replied. She turned to Kolan. Your species spent thousands of years developing technology to manipulate quantum fields. We evolved to communicate with them. That's why our presence stabilizes the anomaly. We're not fighting it, we're resonating with it. The observatory fell silent as the weight of this revelation settled over everyone present. Finally, Kolan spoke. What are you proposing, Dr. Chen? Sarah took a deep breath. We need to gather as many humans with strong quantum empathic abilities as we can find. Not to power your containment technology, but to attempt direct communication with the anomaly. If this is really a recurring phenomenon that shaped our evolution, then somewhere in our collective quantum consciousness, we must know how to address it. The radiation exposure would be extreme, Valtex warned. Even with our best shielding technology, positioning enough humans close enough to the anomaly to attempt communication would be incredibly dangerous. We don't have a choice, Maria interjected, pointing to the latest readings. At its current rate of expansion, the anomaly will reach Earth's solar system in less than 3 months, not 5 years as originally projected. We're out of time for safer options. Sarah looked around the room at the assembled scientists, human and ARCSID alike. Every major breakthrough in human history has come with risks, she said. But we're not just fighting for survival now. We're fulfilling our species' evolutionary purpose. We've carried this ability within us for millions of years, preparing for exactly this moment. Kolan's form shifted through several patterns before settling on one that Sarah had learned to recognize as determination. "What do you need from us?" "Everything you can give us," Sarah replied. "Your technology, your understanding of quantum mechanics, your ships. But most importantly, we need you to trust that humanity's seemingly primitive, intuitive approach to quantum fields might succeed where your advanced technology has failed." As if in response to her words, the holographic display showed another surge in the anomaly's activity. But this time, watching the quantum patterns pulse and swirl, Sarah didn't feel fear. For the first time since this crisis began, she felt a deep sense of purpose. They had evolved for this moment. Now they just had to hope that evolution had prepared them well enough. The Arxid engineering bay had been transformed into something unprecedented, a fusion of alien technology and human intuition. At its center stood what Sarah Chen had dubbed the quantum bridge, a hybrid device that merged Arxid quantum matrices with interfaces designed specifically for human neural patterns. "The quantum resonance chambers are calibrated," Maria announced, her hands dancing across holographic controls that responded as much to her quantum sensitivity as to her physical touch. "But these radiation readings," she frowned at the display. Sarah understood her concern. Even with the Arxid's most advanced shielding technology, the volunteers would be exposed to dangerous levels of quantum radiation. 30 humans had stepped forward for the first attempt. Quantum physicists, meditation experts, and others who had demonstrated exceptional quantum empathic abilities during their testing. "The neural interfaces are as stable as we can make them," Colan reported, his crystalline form vibrating with frequencies that helped maintain the delicate quantum fields around the device. "But Dr. Chen, we've never attempted anything like this, connecting multiple human consciousness directly to quantum fields at this scale. Could change us in ways we can't predict," Sarah finished. She watched as the volunteer team underwent their final preparations. But maybe that's the point. The past week had been a blur of desperate innovation. While the Arxid provided their advanced quantum technology, it had been the humans who guided its adaptation. They discovered that their quantum empathic abilities worked best when they stopped trying to control the quantum fields and instead learned to flow with them. "Final diagnostics are complete," Valtex announced. "The quantum surge protectors are operating at maximum capacity, but," their form flickered with concern, "they're already showing strain from the ambient quantum distortions." Sarah took a deep breath and addressed the assembled volunteers. "We all know the risks," she said, meeting each person's eyes. "What we're attempting goes beyond anything either of our species has tried before. But we're not just reaching out to communicate with quantum fields. We're awakening something that has been part of our species' journey for millions of years." The volunteers took their positions around the quantum bridge. Each interface point was surrounded by Arxid crystalline matrices that would help focus and amplify their natural abilities. Sarah stepped onto the central platform, her role as primary coordinator making her the focal point of the entire network. "Remember," she continued, "don't try to force the connection. Let your consciousness expand naturally into the quantum fields. We're not trying to control them, we're trying to understand them." Colan initiated the power-up sequence. The chamber hummed with energy as quantum fields began to coalesce around them. Sarah felt the familiar sensation of her consciousness expanding, but this time it was different. She wasn't just connecting to the ship's quantum computer, she was connecting to 30 other human minds, all reaching out into the quantum fabric of reality. The first feedback waves hit like a tsunami of sensation. Sarah gasped as her awareness suddenly extended far beyond her physical form. She could feel the others too, their consciousness merging with hers in ways that transcended normal human experience. "Quantum field coherence at 30%, Valtex reported, their voice seeming to come from an infinite distance. 40%, 50%. Sarah barely heard them. Her perception had expanded to encompass the quantum fields themselves. She could see them now, not just with her mind, but with some deeper sense that defied description. The patterns that had seemed so chaotic in their instruments revealed themselves as an intricate dance of possibility and probability. "Something's happening," Maria's voice called out, filled with wonder. The quantum fields, they're responding to us. Through their shared consciousness, Sarah felt it too. The quantum fields weren't just accepting their presence. They were reaching back, like they had been waiting for this moment. Patterns of energy and information flowed through their expanded awareness, carrying meanings that went beyond language. Coherence at 70%. Valtex announced, their form pulsing with excitement and concern. 80. We're approaching critical threshold. The ARCSID scientists watched in amazement as the quantum fields around the device began to stabilize in ways their technology had never achieved. But something else was happening too, something they hadn't predicted. The human neural patterns, Colan observed, his sensors detecting unprecedented changes. They're not just connecting to the quantum fields. They're evolving. Sarah felt it happening within herself. Each moment connected to the quantum fields was changing her consciousness in fundamental ways. They had theorized that humanity's quantum empathic abilities had evolved in response to these cosmic events, but now she understood. Evolution wasn't just something that had happened in the past. It was happening right now. We need to expand the connection, she called out, her voice trained with effort. The anomaly, it's not just a disturbance in quantum fields. It's trying to tell us something. The quantum bridge pulsed with energy as 30 human minds reached deeper into the quantum fabric of reality. They were no longer separate consciousnesses, but a collective awareness that spanned the gulf between normal space-time and something far more fundamental. And in that expanded state of being, Sarah began to understand why humanity had evolved this ability. The quantum anomaly wasn't a threat to be contained. It was a message written into the very structure of reality, a message they were finally ready to receive. But as their consciousness expanded further into the quantum realm, warning alarms began to blare throughout the chamber. The surge protectors were failing, and the radiation levels were climbing to dangerous levels. They were on the verge of either a breakthrough or a catastrophe, and Sarah couldn't tell which would come first. Time had lost all meaning in the quantum field. Sarah Chen existed in a state of expanded consciousness that defied conventional physics. Her mind merged with 30 others as they reached through the quantum bridge into the very fabric of reality. Warning alarms echoed through the ARCSID ship, but they seemed distant, less real than the patterns of quantum information flowing through their collective awareness. Radiation levels critical. Valtex's voice cut through the haze. The human neural patterns are becoming unstable. But Sarah barely heard the warning. In the quantum field, she had finally begun to understand. The message encoded in the quantum anomaly was unfolding in her consciousness like a flower blooming in accelerated time. It wasn't just data. It was a legacy left behind by something vast and ancient. They were like us, she gasped, her physical voice struggling to translate quantum concepts into words. Another species, eons ago, they evolved the same ability. They learned to transcend their physical forms through quantum consciousness. Through their shared awareness, the other volunteers began to understand too. The quantum anomaly wasn't a natural disaster. It was a test, a catalyst designed to trigger the next stage of consciousness evolution in species that had developed quantum empathic abilities. The containment field is collapsing, Colan announced, his crystalline form vibrating with alarm. Dr. Chen, you have to disengage. The radiation levels. No, Sarah interrupted, her voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. This is what's supposed to happen. The radiation isn't damaging us. It's changing us, just like it changed them. Through the quantum bridge, Sarah could feel her consciousness expanding beyond anything human experience had prepared her for. The quantum fields weren't just responding to them anymore. They were becoming one with them. Each of the 30 volunteers was undergoing the same transformation, their minds evolving to perceive and exist in dimensions of reality that their ancestors had only glimpsed in moments of profound insight. Remarkable, Colan whispered, his sensors detecting changes that defied his species' scientific understanding. Their neural patterns are achieving quantum coherence at the macro scale. They're not just connecting to quantum fields. They're becoming quantum-coherent beings. The Arxid scientists watched in awe as the 30 humans began to glow with a light that seemed to come from somewhere beyond normal spacetime. The quantum anomaly, which had threatened to destroy their region of space, began to pulse in harmony with their transformed consciousness. It was never about stopping the anomaly. Sarah realized, her awareness now spanning multiple dimensions of reality. It was about understanding it, about becoming what we were always meant to become. Through their expanded perception, they could now see the quantum fabric of the universe for what it really was, a living network of consciousness and possibility. The anomaly had been like a key, waiting to unlock human potential that had been building for millions of years. There are others. Maria's voice resonated through the quantum field. Other species, scattered across the cosmos, all evolving toward this state of being. The anomaly. It's like a beacon, calling us to join them. The Arxid watched as their instruments recorded something unprecedented. The quantum anomaly wasn't dissolving or being contained, but rather transforming along with the humans. The destructive potential was being channeled into a new kind of space-time structure, one that could serve as a bridge between normal space and the quantum realm. Your species chose a different path, Sarah said to Kolan, her form now seeming to exist partially in dimensions he couldn't perceive. You sought to master quantum mechanics through technology. We evolved to become one with it. Both approaches are valid, but they lead to different destinies. Kolan's crystalline form shifted in patterns that indicated deep understanding. We thought we were coming to Earth to find a solution to a crisis, he said. Instead, we were witnesses to the next step in conscious evolution. The transformation continued, rippling through quantum fields across space. Where the anomaly had threatened destruction, now it seeded possibility. The 30 humans had become something new. Quantum consciousness anchored in physical form, bridges between the mundane and the infinite. This isn't an ending, Sarah said, her awareness now able to perceive the quantum patterns of potential futures spreading out before them. It's an invitation. Humanity won't stop being human. We'll just become more. And in time, we can help others understand what we've learned. The quantum bridge, its purpose now fulfilled, began to power down. But the changes it had facilitated were permanent. The 30 volunteers had become the first of a new kind of human, able to perceive and interact with quantum fields as naturally as breathing. They would be the teachers, helping others of their species understand and develop their latent abilities. What happens now? Valtex asked, their form shimmering with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. Sarah smiled, her consciousness simultaneously present in normal spacetime and the quantum realm. Now we learn what it truly means to be human. We've spent our entire existence carrying the potential for this transformation in our DNA. The universe hasn't been testing us. It's been waiting for us to understand who we really are. As the Arxid ship orbited Earth, its sensors recorded the quantum anomaly transforming into a stable geometric pattern in higher dimensional space, a doorway to new possibilities, created by the merger of human consciousness with quantum reality. It was humanity's first step into a larger universe, one where the boundaries between mind and matter, between consciousness and quantum fields, were not barriers but bridges waiting to be crossed. The evolution they had discovered wasn't an endpoint but a beginning. And as Sarah looked out at the cosmos through her newly transformed awareness, she understood that humanity's journey was just beginning. They had not just survived a crisis. They had awakened to their true nature as quantum beings, ready to explore dimensions of existence their ancestors had only dreamed of.